This is a podcast about our lived experience, which unfortunately includes infant death and subsequent mental health struggles. Please take good care of yourself and only listen if this content feels safe for you right now. We'll still be here when you're ready.
Hi, I'm Judith.
And I'm Alina. We are internet friends turned real-life friends who both experienced the tragic loss of our sons to sudden infant death syndrome in winter of 2021.
In the year after Aiden died, my husband and I both became unemployed. My parents divorced, and we had to move 5 times for various reasons.
And as for me, just a few weeks before my son Quinn died, my then husband had come out to me as a transgender woman and were subsequently divorcing.
It's been a lot.
It's been a lot.
But as long as we're living, we will love our sons deeply and work to make sure that we live a life that makes them proud.
Welcome to As Long As I'm Living podcast.
We're so glad you're here. Okay, so today we want to talk about, I think we should talk about those videos because we both watched them.
Let's do it.
Okay, something that you guys may not know about Alina that I actually was surprised about when I met her is that she records a lot of her life. Like records it, take pictures of it, does slideshows. Like she's into slideshows and she's into like day in the life and she's into like 1 second a days. And so she has a lot of her time with Quinn documented. I think far beyond the average.
I do make a lot of reels and stuff, and like that is a normal thing that I would have done before. I
Yes.
just didn't have a public Instagram before, so they just would go nowhere. Like I'd keep them saved in my own personal Vimeo, but like that's the kind of thing I've done before.
Where you've said to me, you're like, Judith, why aren't you doing more stories? I'm like, with my face. You want to know why my face is on that? I'm like, I don't regularly record myself in the same way that you do. And even when you communicate with your boyfriend, I find this fascinating. You guys send each other videos. Like, never in my entire life would it occur to me to be like, I'm walking to the market. Come watch me walk
Yep,
to the market.
we do that.
Yeah, you do. And you're like, I'm just sitting in my apartment. Like, I would never do that, you know? And I actually think most people would never do that. But Alina does do that. So one of the
Yeah,
things that she has of her time with Quinn are these like day long videos of her and what her life.
yeah. Long form, 25, 30, 40 minutes of a whole
Right.
day of Quinn's life. I have 2 of them.
Right. And recently when we were together, we watched.
Yeah, we did. We did.
Had you watched them before on a big screen like that?
Yeah, so okay, so to give you guys the background, so I have one day in the life video when Quinn was 1 month and 3 days old, so just at a month. And then I have one where he was 2 months and 27 days old, so almost 3 months. A 1 month one and a 3 month one. And I just took little clips throughout the day of our time together. It's mostly of him, but it's also like of me. Like Judith pointed out there when we were watching it, it's kind of like my day in the life, honestly. And my day in the life was mostly Quinn. So,
Yeah.
but like it's a lot of my face at the camera, and I'm talking about his feeding schedule, and like I'm shoveling snow, and like it's a really long form capture of what my life looked like with him there. Um, what did you ask me?
I don't
Oh,
know.
had I watched them? Had I watched them? So yes. So Quinn died in January, and I made a point this time last year. I watched the month and 3 day old one on that day. So it was filmed October 25th, and I watched it on October 25th. So it was like a year before. And I watched the December 17th one on December 17th last year. So like
Which is the day before my birthday.
yeah, it is. So
Yeah.
I made a point to watch them on those days. I had not watched them until then, though, and I haven't really watched them since. And I did watch them on the big screen. So they're uploaded to my Vimeo account, and I have the Vimeo app on my TV, so I can watch them like big screen, which I love.
I don't really know where we're going with this podcast episode, other than to say that we watched them and it was a very emotional experience for you and for me. And
Yeah.
it reminded me of something that I have, which I have security footage from like the. First of all, I just have to say that 4 days before Aiden died, we had like the most perfect day. Actually, when I think about it now, it was everything that I loved to. And after Aiden died, I don't know how I had to do this, but I called the place that we were and I asked
You
for
went to the dog
security
park,
first.
right?
We went to this dog park coffee shop. And it was like an hour away from our house. It was a whole to do. That I had the presence of mind to call and ask for the security footage. So I have like 2 hours of security footage, the family, and, I had not watched until we watched your video with Quinn, and then I came and I wanna talk about, like, our thoughts and feelings watching it, but, first I just wanna say, there's something about this long form format
Yeah.
that is different than the video clips that I,
Yes.
because
I
I
agree.
have lots of, like, 20-second videos, but there's something about watching it completely uninterrupted that really impacts.
Yeah. So we watched this when you were here. We watched Quinn's. We watched the 3 month day in the life. Some of it. We didn't watch all of it. And you kept commenting. You were like, "This is like I feel like I know him so much better. Like I feel like I can really see his personality."
Yeah. Yes, and he looked just like you. He
Yeah, he
looked
did look just like
just
him.
like you. That was, like, one of the first things that really stood out to me. He looked just like you, and then he was really skinny. He was
Yeah,
like a
he was.
skinny little boy, and I really felt like I really felt like I got to see you and a window into your life before everything fell apart, because Kaylee hadn't transitioned at that
Yep.
point,
She
and
hadn't come out. She
she
hadn't
hadn't
come
come
out yet
out.
at all.
Yeah,
So
she hadn't come out, she hadn't transitioned. It was, like, so bizarre. It was like I got to see you before it all fell apart, and it was interesting for me to see you also, because I only know the post-love.
yeah,
So it was just fascinating to watch, like, what your life looked like before, and honestly, it really shook me up. Like, I was really emotional, like, the next day about it too. I was sad. There was something
yeah,
so sad about it.
yeah.
I think what it was like a whole family fell apart. Like, you
Yep.
see a family in a home doing, like, their family things, and, like, I could and then
Can I ask if you have a similar feeling? Part of what I feel like when I watch those movies is like I'm watching a horror movie because like I know how it ends. And it's like it's the first 5 minutes of a horror movie where nobody knows they're about to get slashed or like dumped in a
yes,
creek. But like we know.
yes, and you know what else really stood out to me was your body, because your body was so it just looked so
I was a mom. I had a
you had a
quintessential
mom body,
mom's body in a way I
100%.
loved at the time.
Yeah,
I loved it. My boobs were like twice the size because I was breastfeeding.
yeah,
I had like still a little bit of a pudgy like post-birth like belly. I just like was the soft,
yes.
nice soft body of a new mom.
You looked yes,
And my face was rounder.
your
What did you
face
think of
was
my face? Did I
round.
look different? Because I feel like I've
You
looked gone up
looked
since I know
so
you.
different. You
Yeah.
looked so it was the first 5 minutes of a horror movie. That's what it looked like.
Yeah.
Exactly what it looked like.
Yeah.
And there was something so, the way you were speaking to the camera was, like, too confident. It was so confident.
Yes, right?
"It's 10 o'clock. Quinn is still sleeping, he should be up soon, like, okay, we'll feed for, like, 10 minutes. I'm gonna do some yoga this afternoon. I'll bring you along with me." And then Kaylee's in the background being like, "Hey, did you know that this was there?" Or, like, something so generic.
Yeah, just like normal marriage chat.
Normal marriage chat. It was so ordinary that it was haunting and beautiful at the same time.
Yes,
Yeah.
agreed. I we didn't watch this part of the video. Have I told you about this though? At the end of that video, I go to get him from his last nap of the day, and he's really tired. He's like really he thought it was nighttime, clearly, like his body was confused. You know how sometimes that last
Yeah.
nap of the day they get confused. And so I was trying to wake him up because it wasn't bedtime yet, and I was trying to wake him up. And so this is all on video that I'm trying to wake him up. I'm like holding him, he's like so asleep, and I'm talking to the camera and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like Quinn is like dead." And I laugh and then I go, "I mean, he's obviously not dead." And it's
Yeah.
like horrifying. When I watch it back, I usually fast forward through that part now that I've seen it a couple times and I know it's coming and I'm just like, I can't watch me joke about him being dead.
Yeah. It's haunting.
It is haunting. So let's talk about your video. So you sent me a couple of clips.
I sent you, like, little clips. I really hadn't watched it, but you know what was really stood out to me was that in my head, it looked
Yeah.
like, in my head, when I go back and I think about that perfect, perfect day, it looks exactly as I remember. Like, something that was so surprising to me is how well my memory stood up. Like, I can remember the space, I remember the chairs, I remember the colors, I remember the driveway, I remember where we parked.
Yes.
Yeah, what it to me, I'm constantly impressed by the things I remember and the things I don't remember. Because when I saw Aiden, I took him out of his stroller and I saw his face for the first time, it was like, "Oh my god, hi, I hadn't seen you in so
Yeah.
long." It felt like I was seeing an old friend, but in my mind's eye, I talk to him all the time. And in my heart, I talk to him all the time, but I haven't seen him in a long time.
Yes.
Even though I see pictures, it's not the same as seeing him. And watching him in this long form without us like that, it wasn't a particularly cute moment. It was just like life. What really stood out to me was how good it felt to see him. It really felt like seeing a friend that you haven't seen in.
Yeah.
It felt so good to see him. And to remember, "Oh my god, he was as cute as I remember." And there were, like, little things I remember, like, he had a big forehead, but I can't tell you what his forehead looked like now. But when I saw it, like, I'm always afraid, like, what if there was a lineup of babies? Would I be able to pick him out?
I worry about that too.
But the thing is that I was able to pick him out,
Of
which
course.
is so bizarre because I
And the
haven't
thing
seen him
is,
in a
like,
long time.
your video is security footage. Like, it's, like, from
Yeah,
kind of far away. I mean, it's not that
it is
far,
from
it's
far
fairly
away.
close, but it's not, like, right up in his face. It's a
No,
little bit blurry, it's security footage, but you can see clear as day. That is Aiden, and you,
100%.
and
And
Rosie,
me.
and your husband.
And my husband, yeah, and my dog is, like, running around so happy, and, like, my
Yeah.
husband is, like we're in the security footage, here's what you see. You see me taking the baby out of the stroller, putting baby back in the stroller, feeding him, putting him down, burping him, giving it to my husband feeding him, my husband putting him back down. The most ordinary and boring stuff that you can find, and I was riveted. And some of the things that stood out to me were how I am the same parent. Like, I talk to my daughter in the
Yes.
exact same voice, with the exact same tone, and it was so funny because when I was watching the video, my husband was like he's like, "I know what you're saying there. You're saying, 'Hi,'" just like that in that voice. He was, like, saying it to me. He's like, "Hi, baby," and that's because he hears me say it all the time, and I could
Yeah.
see that that's what I was saying. Like, what's weird is that I am the same. What made me feel good is that I am the exact same mother.
Yes.
I have not changed as a mother.
That was what I loved watching for me, like, what I loved watching about the video, the clips you sent me of you and Aiden and your husband and Rosie at the dog park. I've seen you with your daughter, and I got to see you with Aiden, and you are just as good a mom to Aiden as you are to your daughter.
I
And it
was
was
the
so
same.
special to see you. Yes, it was so
Yeah.
special.
And also, it was good to see ho like, part of it, and I think you felt this too, was I clearly saw how loved he was and saw how well
Yes.
taken care of he was. Like, I didn't it
Yes.
was such validation that I didn't make it up. Sometimes I wonder if I made up the whole thing in my head,
I
because it
know,
feels like
right?
it didn't happen. But I'm watching this video and, like, I see how bonded we are to him. I see how in love we are. I see how much I hold him and I kiss him and I play with him and I talk to my dog and I just see my family and it's validation that this is as bad as I feel it is. This is as
Yeah.
horrific as I think because I'm looking at my family and I see that it's just like it was destroyed, you know?
It's the first 5 minutes of a
It's
horror
the
movie.
first 5 minutes of a horror movie, yeah.
Yeah. What yours reminds me of, like, that same horror movie vibe, like, mine really feels like a Blair Witch Project type of thing, and yours
Yeah.
feels like a disaster movie where, like, on the news, like, a big tsunami is, like, gonna come through and, like, wipe everybody away.
Ugh, yes. And you know what else I noticed is how I talk to other people. That was other interesting thing. How often do you watch yourself interact with other people? But I was so I was so I don't know, like I really the things that I think that I am or I like to believe that my family is came through to me. Like people came over and were like, "What a cute baby." And I like saw myself talking to them about that. And then my husband was talking to them about the dog. Like, "Oh, your dog does this, my dog does this." And then, it was weird this morning I went to the dog park, a different one, but I went to the dog park and I could see this was scary. I could see myself from the outside how you would never know.
Yeah.
We look the same from the outside.
Yes. Yes.
The same. Someone came over to us talking about the baby. My husband was talking to the dog about another dog. There was this dog that it was the same, but so
Mhm.
different at the
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
actually know someone who just lost her son a week and a half ago, and, I texted her and I said, "I know this is, like, gonna sound but if there's any security footage that you can get your hands on, get your hands on it." Because this is how I felt after the loss. You don't get any
That's
more
right.
pictures. You don't
Right.
get any more videos. So try and get anything that you can. Every picture someone else has of your child, try and
Yes.
get it. Any
Yes,
video
that's
that
what
you
I
can
did.
get.
I made a Google folder and I said to our entire families, I said, every single photo they've taken of
Yeah.
him needs to go in this folder. And I didn't look at them right away. I couldn't, but I knew they were there for when I was ready.
Yes, and this video I had for 18 months. I didn't
Yeah.
watch it, I didn't watch it. I didn't watch it, but I yeah, but I'm
Are
so
you
happy I
glad you
have it.
watched it?
Yeah, it felt so good to see him, and I'm so happy I have it. Like, more than
Yeah.
anything, I'm just happy that I have it. It feels like a security blanket.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need it all the time, but when I need it, I have it.
Yeah. It gives you the opportunity to, because like I mean, we were just saying this, like it feels like it was all a dream a lot. Like a lot of the time, it feels like it was a dream because it was so short and it was so long ago and it was so special. Like, how
Yeah.
could it possibly have been real? And then to be able to watch these long clips and see the joy in your face, see the warmth and love between you, it is
Mhm.
so special. And it's so, because it's like third party and so outside of you, it's so explicitly real.
I'll say also, because you see how real it is, there's a grieving period after where you're so sad
Yeah.
because 'cause you're like, "Wait a minute, I lost all of that perfect happiness, I lost." It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like I afterwards, I was really emotional. When I came back from your house, I was really emotional.
Yeah.
Like,
There were a lot
for
of emotions flying that
there
whole
was
trip.
a lot of emotions flying that whole trip, so I'm not surprised, but, I was really emotional, and I think part of it was because I was watching that video and I just was so sad because it was so sad.
Yeah. I mean, I feel so sad that you never got to meet Quinn and you never
Yeah.
got to see me as his mom, and that you still, because I don't have other kids, still haven't really been able to see me as a mom, and it was so special.
I've seen you with my daughter. You're a better mom than I am.
But it was so special for me to show you that. Like that felt
Yeah.
like I haven't even shown my boyfriend that. Like, and I think definitely will at some point. But like that feels, it feels really intensely personal. Like
Mhm.
those minutes of footage are like my pride and joy. Like
Yeah.
they're the best minutes. And I'm so glad you let me show them to
And
you.
when you come to my house, we'll put on the big screen and we'll watch the security
I
footage,
would love to
even
watch
though
the
it's just
security
security footage.
footage. I know, but there's something
But it's
so
good.
special
There's
about
something
it.
really
And you know
special
what,
about it.
Judith? Like, I don't know. I love it. I love it. I wish I had security footage, but we never went anywhere. So,
I wish I had more security footage, but, like, it was really first of all, the problem with security footage is that they delete it after 30 days, and I remember calling that place. It's called Muddy Paws. I called Muddy Paws, and I was like, "Hi, I know I was there on Sunday, but it's Friday and my son died, and I need the security footage." And then the guy was like, "What do you mean?" Like, I had to talk to the owner, and I was like, "Do you have it?" And then he was like, "I have it." And then I called every day, and he's like, "I downloaded it in HD for you. I have to go get a thumb drive." Like, it was a whole procedure, and then I had to go out there, and once I went out there, like, it was this whole thing, but I'm so glad that I have it, and actually, my husband and I bought us when I was there. The guy didn't let me pay for it, anything, even though I knew it took him time and it was annoying because he felt really bad because my son was dead. But, I felt like I wanted to thank you, so me and my husband, I bought us, like, these they only had, like, T-shirts, like, with their logo on it, you just have that, and we both wear them, and to me, I'm so glad that I have that shirt too. Like, there are certain things I did in the beginning that I don't know what made me think to do them, but I'm so glad I did. And I would love to
yeah.
hear what other people in the beginning,
Yeah.
like, what are some of these things that you did? Like, another thing that I find so interesting is that I kept every card I've never opened. I don't want to read them right now, but one day I might want to. And so I kept every card. I kept the little cards that come with the bouquets of flowers. I kept random.
Yeah. I think another thing that surprises me, well, I mean, I feel the same way about how you did that. Like, I'm confused why I did all those day in the life videos and why I'm such a documenter, but obviously I'm so glad I am. And on that note, like Judith said, I do these 1 second videos every day. And I remember the day Quinn died thinking, well, I guess I'm not going to do that anymore. And then the very next day, I was like, yes, I am. And I
Yeah.
just kept going. So I have, not only do I have like every single day of Quinn's life with a 1 second video, I have every single day since then of the grief and the divorce and the crying and the everything and the healing.
I'm so jealous. You've tried to convince me to do this 1 second a day thing a million times, and I tried. I downloaded the stupid app. I done it to 10, like 5 days. Like I just can't do it. It's not my thing. But I do take more videos. And I'll say how jealous I am that you have that of last year because I don't remember so much of it. And one day I will want to look back on it. And the only pictures of myself I have grieving are because I sent them to you. And the only reason I have that is because you kept sending me pictures of you grieving. I was like, this is okay. I guess she likes that. I don't know. But, like, I don't have a ton of pictures at all from the entire year. I have very few pictures, and the ones I do have don't I'm just really glad that I have some
Yeah.
pictures. So if you're in the
Well,
beginning
do
of
you
your
know what
grief.
you do have, Judith? You know what you do
What?
have? This podcast.
Yes, and I have my text to you and me. Like, I was looking through them recently
Yes.
to find your address, and there's just so many things that I'm glad I have just because I think it's feel like there are holes in my life, like entire missing, and all
Mhm.
this little evidence helps me find my way, I guess. Like,
It makes me feel more grounded that it actually
yes,
happened and that I
yes,
made it through the bad days and that the good ones
yes,
did exist.
yes,
And like, I think it keeps my perspective in
yes.
check.
In 25 years, I will listen to the podcast and I was such early. It feels like even knowing that my pregnancy with my daughter is somehow documented feels so good because I forget the whole thing. I don't remember it at all.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
and I wish that I had a podcast of when I was pregnant with Aiden, like, I'm sad that I don't, but you're so
Yeah.
much better. So if you are someone like me who does not document, I know it seems so stupid and it's like, "Why do I need a picture of myself?" But take pictures now while you're in the throes of grief because one
Yeah.
day it might feel good to feel it might feel very validating, and it might be like, "Oh, yes, happened."
Yeah. And what I'll say is like, you don't ever have to look at them. We live in the digital age. Like,
Yeah,
take the photo, like, upload it to the
yeah,
cloud, delete it off your phone. Like, you don't
yeah.
ever have to look at it. But there is something so nice about being like, I remember that day. I remember I took a picture. I wonder what I looked like, and then seeing it. And Nora McInerney is doing this thing like on her Instagram stories. Nora McInerney, her Instagram I think is Nora Borealis, but she's the author of
Terrible.
Terrible Thanks for Asking. She does the podcast and everything. She's amazing and she's hilarious. But she's doing this whole thing where it's like encouraging people to just like take selfies of themselves like in their everyday life because like your
Yeah.
life is worth documenting. Like just because your life is shitty doesn't mean it's not worth documenting. And I want to reiterate so, so, so forcefully that I don't mean documenting for other people. Like, yes, you can put some stuff on social media. Yes, if you have an Instagram like ours, like we do share some personal moments in our Instagram, but like I take so much more video and photos than I share with you all, and I like it that way. Like I take them for myself. So do it. Just do it. And again, you don't have to look at it again. I like it. I like doing it.
I'll add one other thing about another piece of documentation that is haunting is my vaccination,
Yes.
my COVID vaccination card, because
Yes.
I went and got my first COVID vaccine with Aiden. I got my second vaccine 3 or 4 days after he died, or like a week after he died. I got my
Yeah,
third
because that's a
vaccine.
fixed period, right? It's
It's
2
a
weeks you
fixed
have to go
it was
back or
3
4
weeks, and
weeks.
my first one was February 24th, and he died March 4th, and my second one, I think, was March 17th, so it was, like, right around it was before I remember I went with him for the first one. The second one, I fell apart in the nurse's chair, and then I was pregnant with my daughter for my 3rd one. I was pregnant with my daughter for my 3rd one, and then my 4th one, I had just had my daughter. It was like I was a few days postpartum. So for me, when I look at that vaccine card, it's like
It tells
it's
a whole story.
it tells a whole story. To me, it tells a so.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do we want to call this episode? I don't know.
I don't know. I
It
don't
just
know.
kind of
It's like
was like
I
sign
think
off.
the things that are rattling around in my head are like something about documenting or like first 5 minutes of a horror film
Oh
or
no. Or what are those things called when you in a box later and you dig it in the ground?
time capsule.
A time capsule. I
It
don't know
is
if that
like a time
fits.
capsule.
What?
Yeah.
Um
I'm surprised that turned into a whole episode.
I know. I would love if people like can share also like what are some things that they have, like my vaccine card, which like tells a story. Is there anything that you have that like
Yes.
tells a story that shows like I can almost imagine, I don't know, like where it's like a period of time, it
Yeah.
shows a story of your life, but just
The example that's coming to mind for me is it's a little bit different because it's not quite so contained. But for me, when I was moving out of our haunted house, the house where Quinn died, into my own apartment, because I was also going through a
Mhm.
divorce, um, I cleaned out my closet of clothes.
Yeah.
And I had pre-pregnancy clothes, I had maternity clothes, I had nursing clothes, I had the clothes I frantically purchased right after Quinn died and I stopped nursing, so I just needed shit that fit me because I was miserable. Then I had to go down 2 whole sizes because I lost a whole bunch of weight because I was grieving. Then I started dating, so I had to buy a whole bunch of dating clothes. And then now I'm like, all the clothes that I have, this like whole wide variety of things that like tell this whole bizarre story of just truly only 2 years of my life. Like, it's not that long.
It's so crazy you said that because
It's
just the other day, let me tell you what happened. I had the same thing. I was pregnant and then I was postpartum and then I was grieving, all these things. And there got to be a point where I threw away pretty much every single piece of clothes I had when Aiden was alive. I was like, I don't want to look at this clothes anymore. I don't want to look at this clothes. And my therapist was like, you might want to look at it, but maybe don't throw it all away. And unfortunately, at that point, I'd have thrown most of it away. So I only have a few pieces of clothes that I wore with him in the same picture. And now obviously none of it fits me. But my point is that I have the same thing. I'm like, I treasure the pieces of clothes that I wore with him in a way that I never could imagine that I did.
yeah.
And I bought all this new clothes and I struggle to wear it now. I'm constantly needing new clothes because every chapter of my life I'm a different. That's another thing. So much of what we had has to do with pregnancy. So our bodies are physically
Yes.
changing too.
Yeah, it's crazy. Oh my goodness, it is crazy.
To all of our wonderful new friends, we want to hear from you. Email us at aslongasimlivingpodcast@gmail.com and follow us on Instagram at aslongasimlivingpodcast. We'll get back to you as soon as our grieving brains allow.
Yay!